to graze everything between the corn. So to set this up, we've got a 140-inch gap. We've got 100 inches of corn. Each row population is different. So the outside 77, 77, 57, 47, 47, 57, 77. So we're not getting quite the amount of plants, but every plant is engaged. And with this, because we are leaning on the animals, we can plant the cover crop earlier, knowing that they're going to mow it down. But I'll let you go.
Thanks, Rooster. I'm Zack Smith. I'm Jason's stepbrother from another mother from 630 miles that way. And it sucks over that far apart, but that's the way it is. But like you said, we've been good friends for the last couple of years. But Stockcropper was born on February 9th, 2020, when myself and two other small farmers were trying to figure out how to get out of the corn and soybean conundrum. My background is I spent my whole life essentially in ag retail sales as an agronomist. I was a Pioneer dealer. Jason was a Pioneer dealer. We have a lot of similarities in the past to that. But I got towards 2020, I was getting kind of burned out. I was sick of being part of what I considered the problem in fostering the removal of more people, from the landscape. Soil's getting crappier, crappy food, and all of it. I was just kind of getting fed up with it. And myself and my two other buddies were trying to figure out a way to how do we do something other than just corn and beans. And we were fascinated with the strip intercropping piece because of what we learned about with the edge effect. We've been playing around with that since 2012, and we knew there was value there. But what focused on in 20 was how do we replace the soybeans that most people do in between. And so we brainstormed a bunch of stuff. We actually talked about using Jason's relay wheat scheme in the middle, but at our latitude it would be tougher to pull it off. We don't have the markets. So we were kind of stubbing our toe. And then one of our buddies, Lance Peterson, had the idea, well, what instead of plants, what if you put animals? It was a pen of sheep. That was the first idea. And initially my reaction was, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But then very quickly the conversation matured, and it wasn't just a pen of sheep. What if it's a mobile grazing barn unit? And what if it's powered by the sun with solar panels, and it has an onboard battery system, a computer system, and GPS clocks so that we can give it an AD line and send it on a path and move it 3 or 4 times a day automatically. All of those ideas were fostered in about a 10 to 20 minute DM session on Twitter on February 9th. Ideas don't mean shit. It means, the only thing that means anything is if you actually get out and do it. And thankfully, my friend Sheldon Stever was an engineer, and we built the first version in Memorial Day weekend of 2020. It was a bigger version of what you see here. It was 20 feet wide. The pens these are 8 feet deep for each pen, but 11 feet deep, so it was a lot bigger structure, and it was meant to go in between 8 rows of 30-inch strip intercrop. And the idea of the system was to really answer the problem is how do you get, if you're going to do regenerative agriculture, you've got to get animals back on the landscape. So how do you do that? Not just maybe one species like just cattle, but how do you get everything? And so that was the idea to build the cluster cluck, as what we call our barns here, is to have a 3-ring animal circus on wheels and create an avenue to grow super big corn production on the outside. And the corn is there meant to be fed back to the animals in the form of feed that we have to give the chickens and the pigs that you see on here. These are our lawnmowers up front. And it's, the plants are there to feed the animals, and the animals are there to feed the plants. So the idea is we move this barn through here, that we did like a racetrack pattern like he has here. We maybe graze this 2 or 3 times. So it takes a very little amount of acreage to get the forage, to impact it, move on, come back, and I think from what you can carry from a loading rate versus this one, especially the 20-foot version had 8 ruminants up front, 10 hogs, and then we could finish 300 chickens in the back of that in a season, and we only need 0.82 acres for that thing to operate on. So that's $15,000 pro rata. Outside of the electric stuff, I'd want it to last for 20 years. Yeah, that's my expectation if I'm going to sell them.
His idea with the wind, it just frees up so much cost when we don't have to have RTK and wheel motors and all that stuff. You can put a solar motor, that runs the winch, time the winch for the speed of movement, and make it work. Thank you. I owe you $1.